I'm an energy advisor at Coventry City Council, and I'm chairing today's session. Now, the Decarbonisation Net Zero programme, in case you've not heard of us, we're all about energy efficiency. We're designed to help businesses in the West Midlands and Warwickshire areas essentially reduce their energy use and also secure grant funding via various grant programmes we've got available to help get those efficiency projects off the ground, basically. Now, just to set the scene for today's session, today's session is going to focus on ways that you as businesses can help or can obtain help and guidance to reduce your carbon footprint and become more sustainable. Now, I'm out in the field very often on a daily basis, and a lot of companies that I speak to, they know what they want to achieve, but they don't know how to get there, basically. They don't know how to start their net zero journey. So, for example, they don't know how to measure their carbon footprint, and very often they don't have that internal resource to pick it up, or they don't want to pay for an external consultancy to come in and do the legwork for them, basically. So today is about outlining two things. First of all, a platform called Zellar, as you can see on the screen there. That's a sustainability platform that will do these functions for you. And then lastly, but not least, I'll give an overview of our programme, how you can get energy reports from us, and how you access our grants, and so on and so forth. Now, just as an added bonus for any companies on the call who are based in Warwickshire, Warwickshire Council, in partnership with Zellar, have secured 100 free licenses. So you will get a free license for the first year to access the platform. We'll explain that a little bit more later on in the webinar on Amy's slides. But if you're not in Warwickshire, I'd still hang on. It is worth looking at. It's a really good bit of kit, so it will help your business moving forward, basically. Just a bit of housekeeping then before we kick off. All standard stuff. If you could, sorry Andy, if you could turn your videos off for us, helps with our recordings if that's possible. Obviously, pop yourselves on mute, cut down that background noise. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of the session, so after Amy's spoken and me. So any questions, either save them up or put them in the chat, and I'll open the floor to you. Slides and recording will be sent out post-event to all attendees, and we also send out a little feedback form. Let us know how we did and how we can improve, basically. Okay, next slide, please, Maria. Okay, so we're aiming to make these sort of next couple of webinars a little bit shorter, because I think they fit in with people's lunches very well. So we're aiming to start now and finish around 1:30. But as I always say, if we're having a really good time and we've got lots of questions and lots of engagement, happy to extend a little bit further if need be. But as I say, look, the Q&A bit at the end will be from 13:25 to 13:30. Okay, but remember, just in advance, our panel, which is me and Amy, we're here to help. So any questions you've got, please feel free to ask them, and we'll do all we can to assist you moving forward. Okay, so just handing on over to our main guest speaker then, I'd like to introduce Amy from Zellar. Over to you, Amy.
Perfect, thanks, Jonathan. And yeah, really good to be here and talking to you guys. As Jonathan said, we've got licenses to distribute today, so we're really excited to be sharing with you what Zellar is and the value that your business can get from it. So let's kick off. Next slide, please, Maria. Perfect, thank you. So just going to kick off by telling you a little bit about sustainable business, why it's important for you to think about this. I'm sure most of you have already, given that you're on this call, but we'll just run through a couple of things that are exciting about being a sustainable business. I'll then take you through the Zellar platform, so what it is, how it works, the value it can add to your business. A couple of case studies. We've worked with kind of 2,000 businesses so far on their sustainability journey, so there's loads of amazing stories that we can share to tell you a bit more about it, so I'll share those. And then also the onboarding process, so how to get involved and how to claim those licenses. As we go along, that little QR code in the corner, if you scan that, that'll take you straight to those 100.
You've popped yourself on mute, Amy, sorry.
That's amazing. You somehow did that without touching anything.
It's the heat, I would imagine.
That's never happened before. Apologies. I don't know where you lost me.
It only just happened, so yeah, you'll be fine, I think.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the heads up. So yeah, the QR code will take you straight to those free licenses if you want to get involved as we're going along. So firstly, why is sustainable business good business? There are loads of things that could be on this list. I'm sure you could come up with many more, but it's just important to think about. There's a huge variety of reasons why it's interesting to be a sustainable business. I guess the most obvious one is around brand reputation and customer loyalty. So a lot of customers now and other businesses are saying that they only really want to buy from or work with businesses that are at least on an ethical, sustainable journey. So that's, in terms of retaining, attracting new customers, quite an important thing to think about. One that often gets overlooked is reducing costs and increasing efficiency. So there's still a misconception that being sustainable costs you money. And there are investments that can be involved in that journey, but there are tons of things that you can do that reduce your costs, reduce your efficiency, that don't cost you anything. All those sort of behavioural change type actions that can cut lots from your energy bill straight away. So also important one to think about financially. The next one's an interesting one. So lots of organisations are now developing requirements that anyone that they work with must have either calculated their emissions or have created a sustainability plan. So for example, lots of grants that you'll be applying for may ask you for your credentials or for some sort of sustainability plan. As an example, the NHS, if you want to supply the NHS now, you have to have a carbon reduction plan. So really important to be staying ahead of the game on this, because a lot of organisations are requiring it from businesses. And then attracting and retaining top talent, fairly obvious, but particularly younger generations are really interested in who they're working for and what they're thinking about in terms of sustainability. And then finally, innovation and competitive advantage. So it's still, you can stay ahead of the game by thinking about sustainability and how that integrates with the work that you do. So what's Zellar and how do we help you achieve those things? So we are a digital sustainability platform that makes climate action really easy and helps you unlock all the benefits and all the savings of being a sustainable business. So we aim to make sustainability really simple, really easy, really actionable. And we guide you all the way through that journey, right the way through from sort of first stages around calculating and understanding your carbon footprint, then recommending those sort of simple behavioural change actions that I mentioned that you can do really easily, and progressing then more into the more sort of complex, longer term actions as well when you're ready for that, to really unlock that sort of full value of being sustainable. And everything that you do within the platform contributes to your Zellar Score and your profile, which is what you can see in the middle there. And that helps you tell your story. So you can share your Zellar Score and your profile with anyone who matters. You can share them with your stakeholders, your board, your employees, your bank if you're applying for a loan. So it's a really, as I say, that sort of snapshot of your sustainability journey that you're on, and makes a really nice sort of one-stop shop for you to share it with others. Next slide, please, Maria. Thank you. So sustainability is a complex topic. I'm sure you've all sort of agreed on various different levels who will have tried to progress sustainability. There's a lot of information out there, sometimes conflicting information, and it's quite difficult to sort of understand, right, well, how do I sort of boil this down to what we need to go after? So we've really tried to distill that down, and the framework that we've used for that we're calling missions, rituals and projects. So I'll go into those in a little bit more detail in a second, but missions are sort of essential data gathering exercises to help you understand your impact in a certain area. So that might be a mission to understand your energy or a mission to understand your waste. Rituals are the more sort of day-to-day or weekly or monthly activities that really help you embed sustainability in the culture of your organisation. So that's more the behavioural change type stuff. And then projects are those longer term initiatives and investments that create the lasting impact on your journey. So that's the sort of the structure that we use, and I'll show you that in a second. But within that, we will cover all of those topics along the bottom. So as I said, it's really a holistic platform. So we cover energy, waste and water. Then we cover business, fleet, commuting and travel. And then also products and services and supply chain. And there's quite a big giving section within the platform as well. So that's giving to environmental charities, but also corporate volunteering we cover in there as well to support you doing those extra bits to give back that you might be interested in doing as well. So now I'm just going to take you through missions, rituals and projects and sort of examples of those and how they can add value. So emissions, as I said, are those sort of data gathering exercises to help you understand your impact in a certain area. So the screenshots you can see there are examples from the Understand Your Energy mission. And they're guided journeys that walk you through step by step to achieve sort of understanding of that topic. So in the energy example, as I said, we make it super simple, and we've got connections to industry databases. So in this example, all you need to do really is drop your postcode into that mission, and we can pull your energy data back from an industry database and use that to calculate your emissions. So actually takes sort of 10 minutes and you've got your impact from your building impact just like that. So no sort of rummaging through bills, none of that hassle. Really, really easy to understand your impact in that certain area. And off the back of those missions, based on what you've told us and the sort of energy that you're using in the sector and etc. that you've told us that your business set up, we'll recommend the right sort of rituals and projects off the back of that mission that will help you progress those, progress the impact that you've just seen. And this, that example is Understand Your Energy, but as I say, we can use this structure and there are emissions in there around understanding your travel emissions. We've got waste and water emissions coming as well, setting targets for net zero. So really just helps you sort of debunk a topic and understand what is it that this is all about and how do I impact it. So rituals are those sort of groups of repeated actions. So there might be things that you want to do weekly. We recommend rituals based on, as I say, what we know about you, but you can customize these to whatever suits your organisation. And the really nice thing about rituals is they're a way that you can engage your organisation more broadly. So there might be someone who looks after the Zellar Profile, but rituals can be done by anyone in the team. And that little example of the almost looks like a post-it note. We produce that. You can print them off and you can stick them in places around your office where they're applicable, and anyone can scan that and mark it complete for that week, which is really nice. So it's a really nice way of embedding that culture of sustainability across the organisation and seeing the impact of those actions, because a lot of those things, the ritual type actions, are what can save you a lot on your energy bills. And most of them are really simple, basic things like making sure the lights are turned off at the end of the day. If you're in manufacturing, making sure the compressor's turned off when we all go home, the heating settings are correct, those basic things, but it's keeping that and embedding them in the culture, which is important. And then projects. So this is a sort of customized project library that takes you through those kind of higher impact initiatives. There's loads of stuff in there. We recommend them. So we do sort of smart recommendations based on what you've told us about your organisation, your setup, and also about the information that you've given us through the missions, etc. So we'll recommend the ones that we think are most applicable to you. And within each project, it'll walk you through step by step what you need to do to achieve that thing. So it might be something like installing a version of green technology. It might be upskilling your employees, something like that. So step by step, what do you need to do? You can mark them off as you go along. You don't need to do it all at once. You can come back another time and move on to the next step. And each one gives a really clear idea of the benefit that you'll get from doing that thing. So whether it's a pound saving or an emission saving, you'll understand what's the purpose of doing this project. So it's really nice. And we've got lots of sort of action partners that help us with the projects. Some of those are listed along the bottom. So we've got partnerships with all those and many more. And they sort of help us deliver the best content into the platform, but we don't charge any additional costs. We don't charge commission. We don't charge transaction fees. So it's all free. One of the projects is energy switching. So we can help you switch to a green energy tariff. And we do all that for free. So if you use a broker at the moment, you'll be paying for a broker. We can do all that for free. You don't have to switch to green. We just offer you all the different options that are out there and help you understand, how can I move in a greener direction. And as I say, that's all commission free. So huge benefit of joining the platform, even just for switching energy. Big savings to be made there. Cool. And then the final thing that I just want to show you is around profile and reporting. So I mentioned profile in the introduction, and that's where it wraps up everything that you've done and creates that score that you can then share externally. So profiles are accessible by anyone. They don't need to be on Zellar. You've just got that URL, and lots of people drop those on their website. So they put them in this sort of sustainability section. People drop them on their socials so they can engage other people in the journey that they're on. And a really nice way of telling that story. It's really customizable, the profile. You can put your logos, a description, all that sort of thing. And it just wraps it all into one place. So that's the sort of less formal side. I mentioned there are lots of organisations that are now requiring a sort of formal report, and we also do that through Zellar. So you can download sort of a PDF version of a report. You can see on that left-hand screenshot. We cover reports in many different templates, whatever suits, whether you're going for a specific sort of grant or loan application, whether you're applying for a tender, or whether it's something that you just want to share with your board members. We can do downloadable reports in templates to suit you, which is a really, really popular feature. You can imagine, trying to get a sustainability report in any other way is either very expensive or very, very time consuming. So it's a really, really nice feature that you can use in many different ways to suit you. So that's the platform and just sort of the structure of it. As I mentioned, we work with a couple of thousand businesses and they're all doing amazing things, of which we're learning loads from them. So there's a really nice feedback loop, and anyone that's got suggestions, ideas about projects that they're working on, we always try and aim to get that back into the platform. These case studies on here are very small, so I'm not going to dig into the details, but I just dropped them in there to sort of represent the range of different organisations that we work with. So you can see we've got on there sort of IT support, got manufacturing, consulting, so all sorts of different types of businesses. And obviously the actions that they're taking on their sustainability journey are very different, but the savings they're making and the benefits that they're receiving from being a more sustainable business are really, really interesting. And there are really nice testimonials on there as well. So I'm sure we'll be sending slides out afterwards, and worth having a run through some of those case studies to see if any of them inspire you. So finally, how to get involved. So that QR code I was telling you about, you can scan it now if you want to, and you can start running through that process. Or if you just go to zellar.com/sign up, there's a code on there. Again, I'm sure we'll be sending the links out afterwards, so you can jump straight in. And you'll just run through a couple of questions. It'll ask you a bit about your organisation, the sector, where you're based, that sort of thing. And then you'll land in our dashboard, which is what you can see in the middle. So have a look around, see what you can find, think about the things that you might be interested in doing. And then we always encourage businesses to jump on a demo. So we've got an amazing customer team. They run one-to-one demos at any time to suit you. So you can jump on one of those and they'll be able to talk you through specifically for your business, what value can the platform add for you and how can we support you on that journey. So really worth doing that. So you'll find the link to that if you go on the dashboard at the bottom. There's a link to book a demo. So yeah, definitely recommend, so you can get the most out of the platform, because there's absolutely loads in there, and every business is different. So the things that you might want to go after will definitely vary. So jump on, have a look, and let us know what you think. And that's me.
Okay. Lovely, fantastic, really interesting, Amy. Thanks very much for your presentation. Just a thought from me, I have had your demo. I can recommend it. It's really informative and just sort of shows the platform in more detail. So if that's of interest, I'd recommend doing that for anybody out there that's interested in that. Just to clarify as well about the 100 licenses that Warwickshire County Council have secured, that's in partnership with Zellar. They've secured the free licenses. It is first come, first served. So please, if that's of interest, take advantage of it. The QR code is on the previous slide. We'll send the slides out to you. And just jumping forward a bit, when we at Coventry Council do our energy reports for businesses, we've got the details within the energy report as well, so you can access it via either method, basically. Lovely. Okay, well, we'll move on to our next speaker, which I'm afraid is me. So you've still got me, unfortunately. I'm going to run through just quickly what you would expect from an energy report, and then give you a bit of detail about the actual the grants around that, if that's okay. So hopefully this will be of interest too. Just jump onto the first slide. So essentially, just to outline first of all the first stage of the process, which I would term guidance. as I said at the start of the conversation, we're about helping you as a business reduce your energy use. So we offer free energy auditing. So effectively, we would come out to your business site and we'll work with you to work out where you can save money effectively. Now, as I always say, this isn't rocket science. We're looking at your overall baseline consumption. So we go through your through your bills, work out what you're spending and consuming a year, and then we'll basically work with you on site to look at areas where we feel we can make recommendations. So it's things like your lighting, your heating, your insulation, the things that you would expect where energy reductions can be made. We'll recommend ways to achieve that moving forward for you. Next slide, please, Maria. Okay, so as I've said, we're looking at energy wastage, how energy can be saved, also how you can become greener on site. And we appreciate, I always stress this a lot, we appreciate that a business needs headline figures. So we will provide you within the report various recommendations where we'll flag the important bits, which are the ongoing savings. So for example, if we're looking at lighting as a good example, we will be able to show you, if you had old-fashioned fluorescent and high bay lighting, we'll give you the key figures, which are what would I save per annum by upgrading to a high efficiency LED, what carbon would be saved, and we can also then start to work out what the payback periods are for you. So as a business, you can work out which of those recommendations to prioritize, basically. Next slide, please, Maria. Okay, and then from that, we will give you an energy report that lists all of the recommendations we provide, give you an overview of your energy consumption, and then you can then decide to move forward. So just to outline the journey, first of all, you register, which we'll give you some slides on how to do that later on. Then we'll do a nice little triage call with you to check your eligibility, which again I'll mention in a subsequent slide. Do the free assessment on site, looking at your energy usage and so on. We'll give you the energy report, which we'll go through with you when it's completed, and then you can look to apply for the grant, basically. So it's a nice process. We handle it all the way through for you, so you're not dealing with different people, apart from the grant bit, which again I'll explain in a little bit. So if that's of interest, please do get in touch. As again, it's all free. So you use us wisely, basically. Next slide, please, Maria. Okay, so just to outline then the actual grant element, because there's a slight split in terms of where you're based. So let me try and explain this as simply as I can. So we at Coventry Council, we carry out what I would term the front end bit. So we deal with your registration, we deal with the triage call and all the on-site auditing and reporting. So we would do that. If you then are based in Warwickshire, Warwickshire Council have obtained some funding via UK SPF and via Bs, and that includes all the boroughs and district councils. So they have their own grant pot. So if you were Coventry, you'll stay with us and come to our grant pot. If you're in Warwickshire, we do the front end and the audit, and then you go into Warwickshire to claim their allocated grant, basically. So just to run through these bullet points ever so quickly for you, once you've been passed over and we have decided what ones you're going to go for, recommendations you're going for, you will have to obtain some supplier quotes to support your application, and we're asking for 3 quotes for each thing at the moment. So if you're looking for lighting, we need 3 quotes, heating 3 quotes, and so on and so forth. But just to clarify, you have full autonomy over who you choose, as long as it's justified, basically. So you can use your own supplier, you just have to evidence 3 quotes, basically. And then you then apply for the grant. Now, Warwickshire Council have made it really straightforward. It's all done online. There's an application form that's sent out to you, which I've been through it myself. It's nice and easy to fill out, although it is detailed, just to warn you, but it is nice and easy to fill out. That then goes into my colleagues at Warwickshire County Council, and then they will appraise your application. As you'd expect, it is public funding, so a lot of eyes go onto it, but it's appraised by their finance team and their grant team, and then they will come back to you and decide whether it's been approved or not, basically. So it's a slick process, but that's how it works, basically. Similar for those of you that are in Coventry, but we do it in-house basically. So it's the same process, but a slightly different form and a little different on the actual requirements, but essentially it is the same. Next slide, please, Maria. Okay, so again, those of you that have dealt with public funding before will know there are a lot of eligibility criteria around any kind of public funding that's put in place by the government. So the main things to be aware of are you have to have been established and present in your current premises for 12 months. We get asked that a lot if people are moving to a new building. The funding doesn't work for that, unfortunately. So you've got to be established for a minimum of 12 months. Agriculture, forestry and fisheries are excluded from the programme. So if you're in that sector, you're excluded. You must have the energy audit that I've talked about before you apply for the grant, but as it's free, we recommend it anyway. And the grants, the important bits, the grants are based on or from £1,000 minimum to £100,000 based on a 50% intervention. So essentially, if your project is worth £20,000 for the lighting I've mentioned before, the grant funding will give you up to £10,000 towards that project, basically. Couple of other key things. You must have a minimum of 2-year payback. So essentially, as I mentioned earlier on, within the report, I would work out, or we would work out those payback periods for you. It needs to have a minimum of 2 years on that payback. So for example, if the payback was really quick, as in 18 months, you will not qualify for grant funding because the logic is it's so quick a payback, you should do that anyway within your business operation. So that's something you need to be aware of. I've not seen many, to be fair, in my experience, but just be aware of that. So anything 2 years or more ticks a box quite nicely. And also one thing that I do get asked a lot in terms of the grant, as you probably gathered, you get the grant money right at the end of the process. You do not get the money up front. So once the grant's been agreed, you can then go ahead and get the work done. You then evidence that the work has been completed by providing us invoices, pictures of the work. Maybe there'll be a site inspection by one of us. Show us that you paid your supplier, and then you get the grant money back at the end of the equation. So just to confirm, you don't get the money up front, I'm afraid. Okay, so the Warwickshire process then, just to clarify it, we've got some slides on the next slide that show you how to register. It comes into me and my colleagues at Coventry Council. We will assess your eligibility, give you a call, go through what you're looking for, basically. Then we'll do the actual on-site audit and report, and then we'll refer you over to Warwickshire, as I've said, to do the actual grant bit. Same process for Coventry, but we do the grant bit in-house, basically. Okay. Right, next slide, please, Maria. There we go. Okay, so if anyone's got any questions on Amy's bit or my bit, then that would be great. Okay, great. We've got a question in straight away. Thanks for your question. I will read it out, Amy. And it's probably one for us both, actually. Is the software been provided to SMEs only? So, okay, so my understanding is, and I think I'm correct, is because the program itself is for SMEs only, which is, just to clarify, that's those with employees of less than 250 and less than a £36 million turnover per annum. The free element of the software that we're flagging is just for SMEs. But Amy, I would imagine anybody can use the software, can't they, if they're willing to pay for it? It probably suits any business size. Yeah,
exactly. We work with organisations of all sorts of different sizes, not just businesses as well. We work with schools and charities, sports clubs, etc. It tends to work better if you've got sort of 5 sites or less. But that's not saying, those bigger organisations, lots of them will get multiple licenses and we can do sort of rolled up reporting and stuff. So it works for organisations of all sizes. As Jonathan said, outside of this programme, we can definitely have a chat if it's something that you're interested in.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you. I hope that answered your question well. We have a hand raised from my colleague Claire. Over to you, Claire.
Yeah. Obviously, Warwickshire County Council have actually bought a number of licenses, of which there is an allocation to this programme, but it could be something, I'm not sure who else they're offering them to through Warwickshire County Council, so we could take that information off you about your business and then come back to you directly, or relocate that to someone in Warwickshire to come back and confirm, if that's okay.
Yep, good stuff. Thanks, Claire. Thank you. Okay, Annette, that's a good question, and one that I have seen on these kind of calls before, actually, and a good one for you, Amy. Would this also work for offices in service buildings, where we pay for our own energy and can choose our own energy provider? So essentially, yeah, what about people that don't have much control over their energy provider? Is there a specific fix you've got in the software for that sort of scenario?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that. I should have mentioned that. So yes, we do. So that's one of the first questions we ask on that sort of onboarding phase is, do you own your own building, pay for your own energy, or you're in a serviced building, or do you work from home? Because obviously that really defines the actions that you should be taking. So yeah, we still have all the content in there, but it's tailored to those situations, as we know that you probably can't install solar panels on the shared building. So yes, there's still loads of stuff in the platform. We do workarounds for calculating your emissions. So if you tell us the floor space that you use in your shared building, we can calculate emissions based on that. So yeah, so the journeys are just adapted for the sort of setup of your businesses.
Good stuff. Good answer. Thanks for that answer, and I hope that answers your question, Annette. And also thanks for joining. I've got a question actually that I've pre-prepared, which you kind of skirted on in your presentation. Actually, I just wondered whether the software was better suited to any specific sectors. For example, does it work well just with manufacturing that we see a lot in Coventry, or does it work better with leisure that we see more in the Warwickshire areas, or is it a one size sort of fits all platform basically? So it does everything for everybody.
Yeah, I mean it was developed to cover everything for everybody, because it tailors, when you tell us stuff about you, it tailors the recommendations to that. So it feels personalized, even though we can cover many sorts of different sectors. There's obviously, depending on what sector you're in, there's tends to be kind of more incentives for doing this sort of thing. So if you're using a lot of energy, so probably manufacturing, hospitality, that sort of sector, then there's much more in it for you to become a more sustainable business. So it often works very well for those because they're using more energy. But sectors across the board, as those reasons I talked about at the beginning, really interesting to think about the other benefits that it can have for you. And lots of our businesses join literally just, they might be doing lots of stuff already, but they want a way to share their story, and they want that profile, and they want the reports as well. So regardless of what sector you're in, there's sort of something for everyone at each stage of the journey as well.
Good stuff. Thank you. We have another question in the chat from my colleague Dewey, which is actually one of the ones I'd got lined up to ask myself, Dewey. So it's a really valid question. If I'm a Warwickshire business and I get my lovely free first year access, I presume I have to pay moving forward from year 2. Are you happy to give us an idea on what cost that would be, or does it depend on the size of the business maybe, or is it a one price for everyone kind of setup?
No, it's super simple, one price for everyone. So one license is £299 a year, or you can pay monthly, and it's £29 a month. So yeah, significantly cheaper than anything else that you'll see out there in terms of these sorts of platforms. And the other thing to say is, when you claim your free license, you don't need to put any card details in or anything at that early stage. So there's no obligation to stay after the year. If you love it, we hope you do, then you can decide that then.
Good stuff. And just to loop back to a point I made in my intro at the start, if you as a business don't have capacity to do this kind of stuff yourself, you haven't got a sustainability manager and so on, you wanted to engage with a consultant, I guarantee that you would be charged more than £299 a year for a consultant to do even half a day's work for you. So there's no commission payable to Coventry Council, and I've got no agenda here, but it does seem really good value to me in terms of getting that information into your business basically. Okay. I've just got one final question, which I'm asking because this has cropped up on these kind of sessions before, Amy. How good is it at tracking third-party emissions or scope 3 emissions rather, that are in the supply chain? Can it handle that bit very well?
Yeah, another good question. Supply chain, as you'll know, is super complicated and it's very different for every sort of different business. So we do have a supply chain emissions calculator, but it's something that we tend to work through with each business rather than have it as a sort of standard offering on the platform. So if that's something that you're interested in, we'll just jump on a call and we can run you through that calculator and understand sort of what your needs are and the complexity of your supply chain. to make sure that we can cover those emissions and that they're accounted for in the platform, in your profile, but also that we can sort of account for the complexities of each individual supply chain. So yes.
Good answer. Lovely. Good to hear. Thank you. We haven't got any more questions. We're past our proposed cut-off time, so I'm going to start to wrap up now. Maria, did we show the slide with the joining links on, or are we going to put that one on last? If you could perhaps just jump to it again. You know, the one with the two links on. So yeah, so just to clarify, if you want to register, as you can see, there's two separate links. West Midlands and Coventry businesses, there's a link to register for the front end that way. Warwickshire, you've got your own link, you lucky things. So yeah, jump on that one, and it all feeds into us here, and then we will jump on and do that initial triage call with you. So I hope to see some of you that are on the call on site soon at some point. So look, yeah, just to wrap up, as I've said, thank you, Amy, for your time today. I've been really interested, and again, I do recommend anyone jumping on the demo with Zellar. It is very, very informative. As you'd expect, we'll send the slides, we'll send a recording out as well of the session to you, so you can review it again or use that QR code that Amy's flagged to get access to those free licenses. And finally, thanks to all of you for attending. I hope it's been useful, and I hope to see you all soon. Thanks for joining.